Wow guys, we are going 6x6 crazy here at the workshop. Check out what we've just added to the collection, the Tamiya DynaHead 6x6. And this is the G6-01TR platform, which is a little bit different from the G6-01s that we've reviewed before, the Tamiya KongHead and the Tamiya King Yellow. Now what's different about it is it has these drop hubs in here that have a gear reduction unit in it to help it crawl. They also give you this diff locking putty to help lock up all three differentials. And then of course it's got this neat new body, new wheels, and new tires. So this is a build-up kit. The other kits were a lot of fun to build. I'm sure this is going to be just the same. I'm going to go build it up with my kids. I'm going to have a little extra fun with it because they're going to help me out. And then of course we're going to go and drive it. So let me build it up and I'm going to show you guys what's new. And just like that, the truck is built up and ready to go. Now the build was actually pretty easy. My kids actually had a pretty good time building it as well. You know, the plastics are a little tight for them to get the screws into, but you know, they did a pretty good job for 8-year-old kids. So let's talk about some of the differences of this. And you know, obviously up first is the body. Now the body on this is from like a trials truck where they have like big Mercedes-Benz trucks, 6x6 trucks with flatbeds on them, traversing through rugged terrain, and this is kind of what this thing is modeled after. And I think it's pretty cool. I've seen mixed reviews of it online, but I just sprayed it silver, sprayed some black in the bed, and putting the decals on is pretty easy. But overall, this thing does have a very cool look, guys. And the only criticism I have about this body is the Lexion on it is pretty thin, so just be careful when you're cutting it out, and especially if you roll it over. I don't know how this thing's going to hold up in the long term. The front is pretty thin, but as long as you keep it on the wheels, you should be good to go. All right, actually, let me leave the body off because next let's talk about the tires. And these are kind of a rugged all-terrain tire, maybe more suited towards like an asphalt or something like that because it's got this really flat lug on there. But, you know, I think it will do pretty well in grass and definitely rocks. You know, of course, dirt as well as, you know, packed dirt and stuff. So tires look very cool. There is no foam on the inside of these. That is definitely something to note. And then what I really liked was the rims are directional. And you have to pay attention when you're mounting them because if you accidentally put one tire on backwards, it's going to look mismatched. So anyway, that's pretty cool that they are directional. Not a lot of kits do that. They have universal rims on there. So let's talk about some of the main differences now. And one of the first differences I noticed when I was building this kit was the differentials. And as you can see right there, there is like almost no movement in that diff. The wheels are just going forward when I turn forward, and that's because they give you this putty to stuff the diffs with to lock them up basically. There's still some give because it's a putty, but it's really sticky and it just stays in the gears. So hopefully that helps lock up the differentials and it helps the vehicle climb. Now the other difference is the new hubs. These are drop hubs with a gear reduction in them. So they give you the ground clearance now to go over rocks and obstacles and stuff like that. And it's a gear reduction in there, so it helps give you that crawl speed that you need to climb, obviously. So those are really it. That's really the big differences between the kits. You could go and put the wider bumper on the front if you want to. They do give you the parts so you can put rear steer on this as well. But other than that, the build is pretty much the same throughout. We still have this chassis just full of gears. We've got the independent suspension. The shocks on here are friction shocks, so it's just the springs doing the rebound there. And they're actually pretty soft on this, so you know, hopefully, again, it should help climb up, you know, the different terrain that you're going to go over. Battery mounts up top. The axles on here are metal axles, metal outdrives, metal dog bones. So that is definitely nice to see, but on the other hand, there are still a lot of bushings in this kit. And, you know, we keep saying it to me, hey, well, let's give us some bearings. But pretty much the majority of the bushings in here support the gears. There are a couple of metal bushings, but then actually out in these new hubs, there are some bearings out there, some very small bushings, even some plastic bushings. So it's a mix of everything throughout this. Really wish to me it would just give us bearings, but there are some companies out there that do offer full kits for this, so you can go and grab that. The steering on here is single crank. It's got some adjustable tie rods, but, you know, basic setup here. You know, not this super full swing going on. There are extensions on the hubs that you have to put on to mate up with the steering. Here's your steering servo mounted over here. And then over here is that unique motor mount. We've got the 540 can motor sitting over here. Now, because this is a kit, you're going to have to supply your own electronics. So servo, receiver, radio system, obviously, and speed controller. They do give you the silver can motor and a pinion gear, but the rest of the electronics, including the battery and charger, you're going to have to get. And you know, even with paint for the body, you're going to have to go get the color of your choice. We went with just the silver and the black, which is similar to the Boxar. I think they call for like a gunmetal. We went with silver. But again, you can go paint it whatever you want because it's your custom build. But this is a neat machine. I'm pretty interested to see what it could do out there on the trails. My kids are excited to run it too because they helped me build it up. So I guess that just leaves going out, finding a cool spot, and showing you guys what this thing can do. I think the Tamiya DynaHead looked pretty cool out there. What did you guys think? You know, it's this utility truck body thing going on here, 6-wheel drive, and it was just climbing a lot of stuff, and it was, you know, spinning the wheels on a lot of other areas too out there on the trail. But overall, it was a pretty cool time. It is a definite Tamiya experience. You know, Tamiyas just have these, you know, fun element to them, and, you know, the DynaHead here, it definitely delivered on the fun factor. So let's go and break down the performance of it, and let's start off with the steering. And how do I put this, guys? The steering is horrible on this thing. Well, you know, and it's an easy fix. Just so you know, I did build this thing with a standard servo in there, and it's got this servo saver on it, and it just did not have the steering at all. And I kind of knew the steering servo didn't have the torque, but the servo saver that's on there just kind of goes limp when you're trying to crawl and drive through gaps and stuff like that on the rocks. So what I would say, if you're going to get one of these machines, is definitely build it with a high torque servo, and then ditch that stock servo saver and put an aluminum arm on there. Just be mindful that you are stressing your servo out when you do that, but if you get a really good high torque servo, it won't put too much of stress on it. The other thing I would actually recommend is building this one with the rear steer. Now the other G6-01s, like the KongHead, the rear steer was okay on it, but when you're going fast, it wanted to tip over. Well, this thing needs more steering. I could see where the 4 rear wheels are pushing this thing and just kind of plowing the front of it. And, it wasn't getting the steering that I wanted, and this is beyond just noticing the servo saver kind of just collapsing on itself. So, this thing would be very cool on 4-wheel steer. I could definitely say that for sure. So, now that you know what to do, just skip the just go and bypass the standard servo and get yourself something good if you get one of these off-roaders. Okay, now let's talk about speed and climbing and stuff like that. It's actually still pretty quick, even with that gear reduction on there. It's probably as fast as a crawler, maybe a little bit faster than some of the ready-to-run crawlers that are out there in the 10-scale market. So the speed's there, the wheel speed's there, even with that silver can motor, and I put a LiPo battery pack in it, so I had a little bit more battery than when you saw the studio shots. I had a nickel metal battery in there and went for a LiPo instead. So anyway, the speed is there, and the wheel speed is there. I think the gear reduction definitely helps get this thing up and over a lot of stuff. But it's very limited because of the tires. Now, the tires are weird. I'm not sure how to talk to you guys about the tires, because there were certain situations where these tires actually did pretty well, and other situations where it just spun. And it's got this large lug on there we talked about. I think it would be really cool if you went and outfitted this thing with like 6 Proline Hyrax tires, get some rims on there so it really has some traction. That would be a lot of fun. But what was really cool, go over to Google and search for these trial trucks, the real things, and watch them drive, and then look back to my video of how this thing drives, and it kind of reacts the same. I mean, you got this long chassis with the 6 wheels, and things are tilting and moving and stuff like that. So it's giving you that like realistic driving experience, only in a smaller scale, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch it articulate and kind of tip, and then you're using your driving ability to like correct things and keep it stable, make sure you don't roll it over. And I did roll it over a couple of times. I was a little bummed to scratch up the body because I think it's pretty cool, but it gives you that trial truck experience, and I think that's what you would want this for. And again, let me get back to the crawling. Going up some of the hills, a lot of the dirt hills, it would spin the wheels and it would churn up some dirt, and it'd finally get up the inclines and stuff. Some of the rocks it went right up and over. Some of the descents, is when I rolled it, because you kind of got a high center of gravity here with the battery up top, but it is manageable. It is a lot of fun. It is a great driving experience. So I would say totally get one of these if you're really into the look of it. And if you don't mind spending a few bucks more, do the 4-wheel steering, maybe get some really good tires on it, maybe get a good crawler system for it, and full ball bearings. And I think that's really all you need. I mean, even the shocks were okay. They're just a friction damper with a soft spring on there, and it actually worked pretty well. I don't even know if I'd go and upgrade it on this particular vehicle. On the other G6-01s, I would definitely go with the aluminum shock upgrade, but this was actually kind of fun as is. So again, guys, the Tamiya DynaHead 6x6. Very cool truck. If you're a Tamiya fan, you gotta grab one of these things.